Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We're into the good weather. We're into the outdoors, and the sun's coming up. You can go to an Orioles game now if you want to. Masters was going on over the weekend, and then, as we all know, the pinnacle of sports entertainment, the WWE. They got the F out. They got the first W out a long time ago with Vince Sr. Dennis Koulatsos joins us now from Coons Florida Security Boulevard, where, we don't, on our text service, text out wrestling results, but I will say late Saturday night when I woke up in Bianca Belair, I saw the, women. Wow, what an unbelievable the way they wrestle, like it's all up in the air, like Jimmy Snuka. But I even wrestling caught my eye this weekend. So how about that? Maybe even more than a good Masters finish, right?
Yeah, it was a wonderful 2-day event. What was of WrestleMania 37, and some very, very good matches. Some celebrity appearances. Bad Bunny was out there. The ladies were high flying. Again, it was compelling television. But the best part for me, Nestor, was to see fans in the stands. They had about a half an hour rain delay in Tampa Bay, but when the wrestlers came out for the first match, I mean, the crowd popped. It was very, very electric. So it was great to see the fans back at a live event.
What is you've been like fishing, and we've been talking a lot about fishing, and I'm going to do this crab cake tour, and we'll bring it all together, and we'll bring Coons forward. We're going to have a fun time with this whole thing. But so, you have you done anything where there's been people, like a lot of people, like I'll give you an example. My friends, and this is a free plug for my friends over at the Bay and Mike Brillhart promoting this Get the Lead Out, where you sit at a drive-in theater out in Frederick, right, and you listen to a band. And I'm trying to figure out like what I've been seeing Ed Lauer down on the porch down at the Admirals Cup, for a year now. That's been sort of my outdoor thing to do. Have you been anywhere where there's been that roar of a crowd?
I have to think hard, but I don't recall, in the past over a year where I've been where there's been a crowd of any type. And I mean, we have 150 employees here at Coons Baltimore Ford, but everybody's spread out. Everybody's wearing masks. So, no, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm missing being part of that experience that you get only with being with a crowd. So, whether it's that with the Ravens, the Orioles, WrestleMania, I look forward to it. Even when fishing, I waded the Potomac River over the weekend, and but again, you're by yourself. You don't have
Oh,
anyone
tell me
around.
about this. So now, where were you near? Where'd you park your car? Like, I need to hear this.
It's just right off of Johnny Cake Road, close to Catonsville, and but the Potomac is a very long river. It's not that deep in spots, so you can wade it. And ended up catching about a half a dozen smallmouth bass, which river fish, they're different. They fight the stream all their lives, so they're a lot stronger than a fish you find typically in a lake. So 1 pound smallmouth bass in a river is a lot stronger than the 1 pound bass, largemouth bass in the lake. And again, you're wading in the stream, and it's cool. Your legs are cool, and it's just a fun way to fish.
Well, and I would say on a 68, 70-degree day, I would think when it's 87, a little soupy, probably a little different on an August day, even at 7 in the morning, right? Where it can be a little steamy out, right? This is just, pleasurable, right? Nobody's arguing
Yes.
anybody out there.
No, just an old pair of tennis shoes is all you need, a rod and a couple of small lures. And again,
Man, it
you're
feels like
mobile.
Huck Finn when you talk to me about it like
Oh
that.
man, it's just a lot of fun. It's just you're one with nature, and I was able to get back home in time to watch the last 4 or 5 holes of the Masters, and Hideki Matsuyama, the first Japanese person to win the tournament, and his caddy bowing to the crowd after the Matsuyama finished. It was a really good weekend, a great weekend to be outdoors. The rain held off, which was another bonus.
Well, for me to see a Japanese guy win, after all Asian Americans and the attacks and the things that have been happening to people here, but more than that, having spent time in Asia, even recently, I love Tokyo. I love Japan. Adam Jones, who I know you follow him out on social media, he's been over there eating food, experiencing the culture. He and Audie, the whole, yeah. But seeing him win and the bowing, it just a different kind of thing. In the same way, it was a different kind of thing when Tiger wins, or when the first South African wins, or when there have been so many winners. I mean, European winners, but the Masters is, truly this worldwide thing, right? And you need the whole world to participate in order for that to happen.
And Will Zalatoris, of course, the runner-up, looked like the caddy on the one Adam Sandler movie, Happy Gilmore. That was another thing that was blown up on social media. It was a lot
Well,
of
he and
fun to
Adam
watch.
Sandler were tweeting back and forth, right?
They were, when you get the kind of synergy and energy going, and that's a lot of fun. Brings a whole different element to the game.
See, even that stuff comes to me. We did a thing on Classic 5 last week about golfing and like how when you watch golf all weekend, it was great for me. You know how much I love my cat, right? A shout out to the Be More Humane, Kate Pica. We love you, support you. My cat, I had the sound on because I listen to a lot of music here. So I'm always in sort of a Dolby. There's a Thomas Dolby plug for you, but a Dolby, 5.1. And, CBS broadcasted, "Hello, friends," and you hear the birds. Man, my
Very
cat's
good.
like on red alert on Matt. I don't know how I could watch golf every weekend. My poor cat wouldn't be able to stand it. But it was quite the weekend for me because you had baseball, you had
Yeah.
Masters, you had things starting to sort of fall together, a little bit. And when you watch golf at that level and you see it in HD and you see the ball make a movement on the hill and you see professional golfers do this and you see them go into the water on 16 and all hell breaks loose and you think like, guys, had a lead. He's been leading for 3.5 hours. He's been leading
Yeah.
since the second inning. It's been 4 hours. They're in the fifth inning now. And Jim Palmer's profusely sweating. But you want to go get a golf club, don't you? I mean, you're a golfer, right? So like, I'm 52 and I think, my back and how I'm feeling pretty good right now. It might be more about going for a jog than grabbing a tennis racket or doing something left, right that would get me all unbalanced. But it does make you want to go golf when you watch the Masters. If you've ever golfed, this would be the weekend you'd be like, well, let me stretch it out, go get a bucket and at least whack a few here and, feel like what it felt like to be 23 and do this. You can't avoid the Masters, right? You watch it, and it is something we've all done that's participatory, try to hit a golf ball.
It's so much fun, Nestor, and you talk about the water holes. And for me, I guess just like your average golfer, I've always struggled with them. And when you see those holes, my first thought is, if I was up there, I more than likely would put the ball in the drink, right? My golf balls
It's
would
like
have
a
to have
black
life
hole. It gets in
jackets.
your head,
It
right?
is, it is, it is. It's like it's not there, but it is there. So my golf balls should have life jackets on those type of holes. If anybody could ever invent that, that would save me a lot of money.
I never loved golf. I kind of wanted to. It's kind of long for me, it's
Yeah.
and I like this time of year I've been sleeping with the windows open and I'm allergy, so having to take some Claritin, anything like that makes me all boozy and drowsy, not productive. And it never felt as productive for me. So like, and I know you and I talked about this during the pandemic, like my wife really got into walks and nature. She's going to spend a month with her sister up in New Hampshire, going up in the hills and hiking. And I know that's part of, and I've done a little bit of that with my wife. Nothing
Mhm.
where I really like want to be near snakes so much, but like on trails and stuff, I've done a lot of that, right? And really enjoyed it. Patterson Park, my wife and I walked to the city we walk here. This is where I walk. I mean, but it's flat, right? Very flat, quite frankly. But walking in hills, yes. Fishing, you and I've talked at length about it. Tennis is something, my God, I love tennis. I wish my knees and I wish I could go tennising and had 5 friends that played it at the same level, and I didn't feel like I was gonna wind up on crutches if I did. It's kind of like skiing. I do love the water ski now. I will water ski with you, but the golf thing is something for me right now. No, but fishing, which I haven't done since I was, I don't know, really 12 years old at Bear Creek. I think I told you I fished a lot as a kid. Um, but I think I'm trying to figure out what to do. But golf doesn't feel like the thing I'm going to go do right now, like, but I love to watch these people play at this level. When I put it on, it's marvelous to me because I've tried. You know what I mean? Like, and it's the dedication it takes to be precise to that point, especially pitching out of sand traps. You know what I mean? Like, you talk about water. I've never gone in the water and tried to hit it out like Happy Gilmore. everybody's tried to hit something out of a sand trap, and like just that's artistry when I see them do that. Because when I hit in a sand trap, I'm done for life. Give me 5 shots because it's not getting out.
Well, golf is one of those disciplines that if you don't play frequently enough, you're not going to be good at it. You're not going to stay good. You're going to lose your timing, your rhythm. If you Google my name on social media, there's an article in the Sun paper with myself and Norm Dowdy. They used to call us the dew sweepers because we were the first ones at Clifton Park for about a decade. Right before work, we'd get 9 holes in and shower
So
and
you're a
shave and
big
be into
fan of
work.
the Classic Five, is what you're
Oh,
saying. You cut
love
your
the
teeth
Classic
on there.
Five. Oh, played. I hold the record for most shots taken at those courses. I know those courses like the back of my hand. But there is an article on there, and back when I was 37 years old, so that was 20 years. It's a 20-year-old article that it's pretty lengthy too. That talks about what we do and the being the first ones out there, and the sun rising, and the dew still being on the greens as we putted. But and that's when I was good. And that's when I enjoyed the sport because I played so much. My timing was there, which is why now I just fish because with fish I'm going to hit water with every cast. Where with the golf ball, it's not a sure thing I'm going to make contact.
Well, it is a great time of the year, and I'll just say this for anyone. Dennis Koulatsos joining us here. He's here on Thursday. He's here on Sunday. You can find him at D Koulatsos Show as well as at Coonsford Security Boulevard, and our text service too. This is we're coming out right. I'm getting my shot this week, right? I've turned down several shots over the last 10 days. My wife hasn't been here. I feel like after watching her get sick as a dog, I sort of want some sort of level of care beyond my sick cat. So this is my week. So, 21, 28, one shot. I have no idea how it's going to go. But I feel like in June, there's going to be a little bit of a relaxing of things I could do, want to do. And look, Dan, if I wanted to go to the game Saturday, Sunday, I would have. And I thought about it. I looked out the window and I thought, I can't talk to people. You know what I mean? Like the game's on here. I have work to do. I'm building a new company that I'm, as you well know, very dedicated to and making a lot of moves with crabs and crab cakes and all this stuff. But this is starting to feel normal, right? The sports feels normal. I know we need to mask up, and I want to make that, clear for everybody. We need to remain safe for this next 60, 90-day period as all the people like me rush out to get shots the next week or two or three here. But I do feel like, and I don't know, I'm not going to go to Preakness, I don't think. I mean, I still feel like in that window, but there's coming a point where like I'm looking at concerts in August. I'm looking at the Ravens schedule coming out this week, which you know me, man. I've been to 97.8% of their away games. Forget the home games. I've missed 10 Ravens games in my life, literally before last year. And I even went to 3 of the road games last year, right? So I'm waiting on this schedule, and I'm waiting for sort of the tracks of life to feel whatever normal in 52 is going to feel like. But man, I am so looking forward to this Vegas date with the
Oh,
Ravens and when they're going to be in Pittsburgh and the value of football and what it does feel to look forward to the draft and some normalcy of having a pretty good football team around here and that being a big part of our lives in the fall and having it hopefully be back on track and be normal again, right?
oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to the Vegas date and also the Miami date. Some of my best friends went to Nashville last year to watch the game against the Titans. They came back and said what a wonderful time that they had, and just being out there and just trying to return back to normal. To your point, a lot of things out there, and hopefully, as people stay responsible and mask up and get their shots. I have my second shot this Wednesday, so I'm looking forward to that, and we get back to some degree of normalcy. But it is different watching sports on TV. You know that better than anybody versus being there in person. So there are a couple of trips that, God willing, I'd like to take myself this year.
Well, I mean, with schedules coming out, I mean, we can go to the Oriole game tonight if we want, right? I mean, like literally, right? So there is that. And I think this safety period of the next 60 to 90 days where I'm like, you want concerts, you want Black Crowes, Pearl Jam, Bruce Springsteen, all the stuff that I've been watching on my video screen here in the last couple of weeks. I want that stuff to come back to life, at least the things that we can bring back to life. I know I've spent some time talking about music and being outdoors. And I mean, I'm looking at Pier 6 over my shoulder here. I walk by there and I think, Is it going to be the Goo Goo Dolls? What's the show going to be that we're going to come down here and gather and have boats in the harbor and have commerce being the way it should be. But the crab cake thing's going to be my thing. We're going to talk some more baseball and I am definitely getting you out fishing, right? We're clear on that, right?
Wouldn't miss it. The company sounds like it's going to be great. And again, make new friends, meet new people, and maybe catch a fish or two while we're at it. So it sounds like a wonderful time to me, Nestor. Count
I
me in.
really don't know much about fly fishing other than I swear to you, when I drove in Montana 3 years ago, it was
Oh,
about Pearl Jam, right? We were going to Missoula to see, that was the pathway, but we started in Boise. If you've never been to the Craters of the Moon, look that up. It's in eastern Idaho. Just go and go at sunset. It's one of the most magnificent things I've ever stumbled. I didn't even look it up. We stumbled into it, but go do it. But we're driving along and I'm seeing people everywhere in Montana. You turn a corner and these huge cliffs and this
yeah.
running water and a stream that never ends and hills and valleys. And there'd be cars, trucks parked and people in waders in areas right off the water, pulling up these beautiful rainbow things. And like, I'm like, that makes me want to fish. It's
Oh, there's
first time in a long time where I was like, maybe my Aunt Clara, and this is where the conflict would happen, Dan. And this is be some of the storytelling we'll have when I try to lure Dan Rodricks and you and me and Tony Tochterman out for a day of crab cakes, beer, and fishing. But when I was a boy, have I ever told you about my Aunt Clara and the Ranger Ricks? Have I told you this story?
nope, never heard of it.
Oh my God. Well, you were on social media long enough to know my mom and her sister, right? My
Yeah.
mom's sister, Aunt Clara, right? She passed about 6 months after my mom passed, maybe about 2.5 years ago. And they grew up together in South Carolina. And my Aunt Clara lived in Newark, Delaware. Her husband, Clemson, went to work up there for DuPont and lived a whole life as Southerners, never lost the accent. My mother took on an East Baltimore accent, but her sister had a syrupy, Southern, thing going
Hmm.
on forever. My Aunt Clara, and so my Aunt Clara, when I was a boy, wanted me to be a fisherman, wanted me to be a gun person, like an NRA, like all of that. So she sent me Ranger Rick, like the guides, when I was
Okay.
subscribe me every year. So every month I get like a Ranger Rick, and then after that, whatever the junior Weeblo version of then the guns and the buck hunting and like all that came when I was about 11 or 12. And every year, and I was such an ingrate as a kid, to culture. And this is where you'll love this. So I was born in 68. The magazine started about 74, 75. I got on my wrestling bent 75, 76, 77, right? And I said to my Aunt Clara, and this broke her heart, I'm like, and Clara, if you really want to make me happy with the money you're spending, because I was always about the finances, right? I mean, I was always about this is yes, pragmatic. I'm from Dundalk. We only had 10 cents. I said, Aunt Clara, I don't read that Ranger Rick and the gun stuff you send me and the buck hunting and the fish thing. Like, I'm not so much. But if you could get me a subscription to the Wrestler and Inside Wrestling, and this is like when and my Aunt Clara is from the South, very religious woman. Um, she saw the apartment house wrestling that they were doing in the era. Dan, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Sure.
On the covers of the magazines, the
Yep. Yeah.
blood on the front. And she's
Sure.
like, no, 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 no. You're getting Ranger Rick. So I got Ranger Rick till I was 15, 16. Just so you, and well, I mean, once I got to be 12 or 13, then it went into whatever I never looked at it, man. It never even came out of the wrapper. And then I just subscribed on my own with the baseball cards I sold. Because I sold some baseball cards and I also hustled the Dundalk Eagle. So
There you
I
go.
took my subscription money when I wasn't at the mall playing Donkey Kong, but I took it and I subscribed to all the wrestling magazines, 78, 79. I was good. I had subscriptions every month. The new books would come. Kevin Eck and I would get on the phone. You always get the magazines before I did. Did you subscribe? You were a
I,
wrestling
I
guy,
I
right?
did. Of course I did. That was a big. There was nothing else back then. If you were a wrestling fan, right? That's where you got your information from.
Absolutely. Inside wrestling. I mean, I got to know Apter and Napolitano and those guys that took the pictures. I mean, I saw Apter around the ring all the time. I had him on the show back in the 90s. I mean, Gary Michael Capetta, all that stuff, but I loved wrestling, and my aunt always wanted me to be a fisherman. And she took me fishing all the time, and my son said to me recently, he's like, "Did you ever go crabbing?" And I'm like, yeah, like a lot. Like I mean probably 30, 40 before I was like 12. My dad went crabbing with me. We had the pots and the chicken necks. We did it off of Bear Creek. We did it on in Eastern Avenue,
Yeah.
Dundee Creek. I mean, so I did that as a child. I never golfed. And we had Ed Miller on from
Oh,
Classic 5 this week, and I had Mark Miller on from Blondell Miller Schuler in Essex, one of my great sponsors, damngoodlawyer.com. And we did an hour on baseball cards and collecting baseball cards and things we did as kids that we didn't do. And I'm telling you, Dan, this fly fishing thing, I'm going to keep beating you up about it and talking about it. I'm really excited about it. Like, I would think there will be nothing in my life. Once I'm going to read up on Lefty, who was my friend, Lefty Cray. Like, I'm going to take this really, really seriously. And if
yeah.
I put a fish on a hook, you want to be there and experience that, right? You want to see that.
Absolutely. Look, I want to take a pictures and video of that. And I don't know a fly fishing rod. I've never fly fished in my life. I've done every type of fishing there is except fly fishing. So looking
All
forward to,
right. So
yeah,
so we're
or
really going to,
even
this is going to be neat.
even the playing field here at Nestor.
This is going to be like, I'm trying to think in the last couple of years the things I've done. I mean, the last year, because of the pandemic, and you know me, I'm a growth mindset human, so I'm always trying to, like, I learned how to eat with chopsticks. You know what I mean? At some point, I'm going to learn how to really play the guitar instead of just pluck. There are things you want to learn how to do or whatever. But I'm going to use this crab cake tour to check
Okay.
stuff off the list that I've wanted to do. But crabbing, my son and I had this conversation. He's like, never crabbed, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna find the best crabber there's ever crabbed, and we're gonna go out and crab. I tell my wife's been in Florida for a month. She did a yoga retreat, and she's doing yoga upside down on paddle boards, crazy stuff.
Okay.
And the
Good.
thing I always say to her that I want to do, and this is a big bucket list thing, is get on one of those airboats in the Everglades.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I've never done it, but going through those swamps and seeing the gators,
No, no, no.
hopefully,
My
and so
wife saw a 7-foot gator in the neighborhood this week. And that
no, she didn't.
My wife sent me a picture of a bobcat and an
Yeah.
alligator that she has witnessed on this trip and photographed.
Oh yeah, they have black panthers at a lot of those golf courses too. So
I Nestor doesn't live
whole
where there's
different
black
game.
panthers. Yeah, that's no, 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 no. I had squirrels occasionally, like raccoon, snuck in a neighborhood over in Dundalk. Dennis, love you, appreciate it. What's going on with Coons? Give me a little. I see
Okay.
Crystal show up from time to time. You're always here on Thursday. Give me, where are we as the sun is shining now on? I mean, I always hear so much about home purchases and APR and 0% and all that.
Yeah.
Give me where we are.
Well, car sales right now are like home sales, in a sense. There's not enough inventory to go around. In fact, cars this year are what toilet paper was a year ago. The inventory is drying up. There's shortages in the supply chain, so the supply is very low. The demand is very very high. So yeah, we will do home delivery and all that good stuff. But my recommendation, if somebody wants a vehicle, if you see it, go buy it, because two things are going to happen. It's either going to sell before you get there, or the price is going to go up the next week or two because of there's just the replacement isn't as doesn't match the sales rate. The sales rate right now exceeds the replacement rate, Nestor.
Tell me about the new cars too, because I would say for anybody, if you haven't bought a car in 5 years, six, I mean, or if you're driving in a 14 that you bought in 18, wherever it would be, right? And you're at that decision point, the new cars are more like rocket ships. They really are. Like
They are.
It amazes me. Technology is incredible, right? Like I've moved technologically the last couple of weeks. I think I've told you about my neck, my back, how much better it makes me feel. My new chair. I have this incredible partnership with MOI. I'm going to be talking about that as well. Great partnership with Wise Markets. But you talked about toilet paper. Last year I didn't have a hookup on toilet paper. I had this sandpaper. I still have four rolls of it, and I threw it in the back seat of the car for a rainy day. And I'm thinking, my God, if anybody ever had to use all four rolls, I did 30 ballparks in 30 days. It's the thing I remember the most about it is that I should have packed my own. But nonetheless, where we are with technology now with vehicles and I think even if you're in the vehicle a lot, and I think you and I talked about this, using smart equipment,
Yeah.
whether it's listening to you and me on a podcast or radio, or whether it's interacting with your family, your employees, talking to devices, all of those things, you can really maximize it. That's one thing I've learned is my desk. You're going to start seeing me stand up to do the show because I'm getting a desk that moves, and I'm moving around now to saying, you know what? I want to drive all of this. And I would say, as these cars, and I always kid you about, like, at some point, the car's going to drive itself. And you know that, and I know that, and we'll trust it. And we'll make that leap of faith that we're going to need to make to do that. But in the meantime, cars are different than they used to be. And when somebody comes, and I would think your salespeople
But I
have to
mean,
be different about this, right?
yeah, I mean, right now, a lot of cars you can start with your telephone. So even car keys are going to become a thing of the past, Nestor. So technology is moving very, very fast. If you haven't bought a car in the last 4 or 5 years, the new one's going to be like a spaceship. It takes a couple of hours for our salespeople to go over all the features of how it operates. And as we move towards electrification, that's the big thing. And at some point, the gas engine powered vehicles will be very much a thing of the past.
Dennis Koulatsos educating us about the fishing, cars, wrestling, and who the Ravens going to draft. I didn't get to that with you.
17 days. We're counting it down. It's there.
Are you lobbying wide receiver?
Now I'm lobbing edge rusher. I think they've got to put pressure on the quarterback. They're entertaining Justin Houston, Indianapolis Colts and Kansas City Chief former defensive end this week. So I like the big uglies. I like the guys up front, the guys that block, and the guys that tackle. I'm not big on the wide receiver in the first round.
I've been yelling about center, and we've been talking about Bradley Bozeman. If that's the answer, that's a fine answer. If that is the answer, that's good. But I think the O line still. I like the Zeitler signing, and at wide receiver, this first pick for me is going to be so scrutinized. But to me, it's more of an ensemble. If they get the right center or the right guard in the third or fourth round, great. If they get a Hall of Famer in the first round, great. The wide receiver part in the first round, though, it's always such a dicey proposition. But I don't know that Eric ever feels any pressure from anything knuckleheads like us have to say about it. But I do think there's some pressure to produce at that position that when I had Mike Silver on this week, when I had Adam Teicher on this week, talking about Sammy Watkins out in Kansas City, and I had Mike Silver on from NFL Network talking about the position in the Buffalo game and, what's going to need to change here. The wide receiver thing's just going to always be in focus.
Yeah, it's a deep draft. Thankfully, for wide receiver, it's just probably the deepest position in the draft in terms of talent. So they can get a really good receiver in day two or even day three of the draft. Like you, I like the center position. Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma. 27 may be too high, but you know what? Maybe they trade back in the second round and get him at 34th, 37th pick. So Eric, I trust him. He probably has his board already. Top 150, top 200 players. He ranks them, and he's going to pick the best player available. And we have to trust him and trust the process. They haven't really, they've been very, very good. We've been spoiled as a fan base, so I do trust the front office to make the right picks.
I said that to Luke this week. I'm like, whatever they're doing with Houston and the fourth rounder and all that, I'm like, they don't just give away draft picks around here. They don't make stupid decisions for the most part. There must have been something about Sammy Watkins that Roman and they found attractive in this offense and where he is in his career and what he's trying to do. And I think they look at it much more like a symphony where we just want to hear more cowbell.
No, I there's nothing wrong with more cowbell, but sometimes they can't always make a sexy pick. They always pick so late in the draft, thankfully, because if they didn't, of course, that'd be a bad team, which they're not. But let's trust them. And I like the offensive line. I like the defensive line. And the better that the lines are, the better chance to have a winning. Just look at the Super Bowl and that Tampa Bay defensive line and what they were able to do against the Chiefs' offensive line.
Well, it's also fascinating to me when you said the trade word, because you're the first one to really bring it up. I've talked enough football here the last 6 weeks with Luke and others, but we haven't talked a lot about, well, trade up, trade back. They have the ability to move up 5 picks if they fall in love with something that's still there. They have the ability to move back 5 picks, and
Yeah.
they love to move. They love those value propositions and moving around and finding someone whose need is greater when they're on the board, or when they're like, hey, that guy's 12 on our board and he's sitting there at 19. Right. Let's go get him. We can make this deal and give up a 3, give up a whatever, that they're willing to do that. I love to watch the poker game play out, right? It's like watching the last day of the Masters. You wanted more excitement, but yeah. Hey, if they sit there and they pick someone and it turns out to be Ed Reed, you won't know it for 5 years anyway, right?
That's correct. And look, I think they get a bad rap for moving back all the time. That's not true. That's false. They're just as apt to move up as they are to move back. Joe Flacco, let's not forget, they traded back into that first round to pick him
Lamar
back
Jackson.
When he was selected.
I didn't went to sleep. I accidentally fell asleep. I literally was just sort of like, all right, they took the tight end, great, pitcher, great. Tomorrow morning, it was 11:30 at night, and I wake up and there's a green suit on in a purple bird, and I'm like, it was like a fever dream. Next thing you know, Luke and I are doing 2.5 hours of radio till 3 a.m. So yeah, I remember that. Hey man, it's like a Pedro Morales. Hey, ready for any kind of action on draft night, for me. That's a good wrestling reference. I did that well, didn't I?
That was well played, my friend. Well played, sir. But you know what? Just think, if they don't trade back into that first round, maybe John Harbaugh and the staff would have been fired that year. You just don't know how critical that pick was. They were able to make the playoffs. They were able to go all in on this young man and be able to rebrand and give this franchise some more fuel for the future. So what a critical pick that was in how it determined the future of the franchise.
Well, my dude Ken is a Philadelphia Eagles fan. So he's got Joe Flacco now. So, we'll see the rest of the answer to that equation as to how it's turned out for Harbaugh and Lamar. Dennis is here on Thursday from 3 until 5 with Peter and with myself and Luke and a host of others as well. He will also be here on Sunday mornings. You can find him out on Twitter. And selling cars over Coons. Get over to Security Boulevard and take advantage of spring, because spring is sprung. If you're in the market for a vehicle, Den's there to help you. Always good to have you on, Den. Take care.
Thank you.
Wrestling and football and fishing. That's we mix it up around here. Even got a little golf in as well. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net AM 1570. Towson, Baltimore. We never stop talking Baltimore positive.